Good morning and welcome to Breakfast with Ben Thompson and Laxmi Gopal.
Good morning to you. It's 6 o'clock. These are the headlines for you. The future funding of social care. Talks have been taking place this weekend ahead of a major announcement. But some Conservative MPs are warning against tax rises.
Prince Charles's former aide steps down from his charity role after allegations he used his influence to help secure an honour for a major donor.
Nearly 50 shops a day have disappeared from our high streets, but the rate of closures has begun to slow.
And Scotland edged closer to World Cup qualification. A first-half goal from Lyndon Dykes was enough to clinch all 3 points against Moldova in what was a must-win game.
Good morning. It seems summer is not quite done with us yet. Some warmer weather on the way over the next few days, but some rain to contend with for some of us. All the details on the way here on Breakfast.
Good morning to you. It's just after 6 o'clock on Sunday, the 5th of September. Our main story today, the future of social care in England, is being discussed by the government this weekend, ahead of a major announcement that's expected later this week.
Boris Johnson pledged to fix social care when he became Prime Minister, but he's facing growing pressure from within his party not to increase national insurance contributions to pay for the plans.
Well, we're going to speak to our political correspondent, Chris Mason, who is in Westminster. Chris, morning to you. Look, no easy answers on this one, is there?
Morning to you, Ben. Morning, Luxby. There really isn't. It's a huge question, isn't it? How or should the government intervene to prevent people in England, in some instances, having to sell their homes in order to fund their social care? Let's look at the array of promises the government has made here. Firstly, Boris Johnson has said repeatedly he will sort out social care. Secondly, he said he would get a political consensus in order to do it. And thirdly, he said he wouldn't put up income tax, VAT or national insurance. Now, national insurance is a tax on earnings. It's not paid above the state pension age or on pension income or on investment income. So if he does put up national insurance, bang goes that promise around raising taxes, bang goes the idea of a consensus, because Labour and others think raising national insurance is a mistake, but he may get a plan on social care, which was that first promise. But he has to persuade his own side as well. So Sir John Major, former Conservative Prime Minister no less, saying using national insurance is a mistake. It's regressive, he says. In other words, the poor end up paying a disproportionate amount relative to the better off. And Labour are making a similar argument too. As you say, meetings going on throughout this weekend to try and work it out. Also work out an additional funding package for the NHS to try and deal with the backlog caused by COVID. As MPs return this week, we're going to be straight back into the cut and thrust of argument, with this thing being front and centre.
Yeah, exactly. Chris, for now, thanks very much. Chris Mason there.
The chief executive of one of Prince Charles's charities has temporarily stepped down following newspapers' allegations he used his influence to help secure an honour for a major donor.
Yeah, Michael Fawcett is a former aide to the Prince. Here's more from our royal correspondent, Johnny Diamond.
Michael Fawcett was once one of Prince Charles's closest aides, a man whom the Prince relied upon to guide and organise his personal life. 3 years ago, he became chief executive of the Prince's Foundation, an umbrella group for a number of Prince Charles's charitable interests. Newspaper reports allege that Mr Fawcett offered to assist a wealthy Saudi national and major donor to the Prince's Foundation with citizenship and with an honour. Mahfouz Mareh Mubarak bin Mahfouz received an honorary CBE in late 2016. One palace source stressed the distance between Prince Charles's office and his foundation. But Michael Fawcett is renowned for his closeness to Prince Charles, and this is an embarrassment for the Prince. The foundation said that it took the allegations very seriously and that the matter is under investigation. The foundation failed to respond to a number of other allegations raised by the newspapers.
Johnny Diamond, BBC News.
Elsewhere, Taliban officials have broken up a demonstration by dozens of women in Kabul. The group say the Taliban targeted them with tear gas and pepper spray as they tried to walk from a bridge to the presidential palace. The women were calling for the right to work and to be included in the government, but the Taliban say the protests got out of control.
The government is facing increasing pressure ahead of a decision on whether to offer COVID jabs to all children aged 12 to 15.
Well, Labour has called on Boris Johnson to clarify the situation as soon as possible, as Helena Wilkinson reports.
In America, they've been vaccinating children against COVID for months. Other countries like France and Germany are also immunising 12 to 15-year-olds. But in the UK, a decision still hasn't been made, and pressure is growing on the Prime Minister to make a decision. Labour wants clarity so children don't face further disruption to their education. Earlier this week, the UK's Vaccines Advisory Body said it couldn't recommend vaccinating healthy 12 to 15-year-olds on health grounds alone. They said the vaccine offered only marginal benefits. Parents will be eager for ministers to make their final decision.
If it's going to free up our world more and our country more to give us the freedom and protect our children and things in schools, then absolutely I've got no objection to it whatsoever.
We just don't know that much about it, so I just think at the moment, I think anybody above that age, 16 onwards, that's their choice. They can make that choice. A child of that age can't make a choice.
The Joint Committee on Vaccination and Immunisation looked at possible health benefits and rare side effects in children. The UK's chief medical officers have now been asked to consider wider issues like disruption to schools.
We're not the medical scientists, and we don't want to enter into that territory, but we do think the question of disruption in schools and the measures that we can take to avoid that disruption, they should be front and centre for the government at the moment.
But 15 Conservative MPs have signed a letter to England's Chief Medical Officer Chris Whitty, saying the risk of school closures shouldn't be considered. They're urging him to focus only on the health benefits and downsides of the vaccine. But parents remain in limbo. They will want clarity on whether their children will be offered the vaccine or not. A final decision is expected within days. Helena Wilkinson, BBC News.
We're going to talk about that much more throughout the programme this morning, so do let us know your thoughts. Elsewhere, Home Office officials have admitted that long immigration queues at Heathrow Airport on Friday were unacceptable.
Passengers had to wait several hours and some were reported to have fainted. The airport has blamed the UK Border Force for not providing enough staff. Catherine Stancheshen reports.
Long queues and fed-up passengers. These have been the scenes at Heathrow Airport this weekend, with waiting times of several hours to get through passport control. Travellers took to social media to vent their anger at the situation, describing overcrowding and poor ventilation, even claiming some had fainted. The end of the school holidays means extra pressure at airports. This weekend is the busiest of the year for returning passengers, many with young children who can't use the electronic passport gates. But Heathrow has criticised Border Force over the unacceptable queuing times, putting it down to simply not enough staff on duty, particularly with the extra checks being made due to coronavirus. In a statement, the airport apologised for the delays. It said Border Force were aware of extra demand and that it was very disappointed that they didn't provide sufficient resource. It also said it was drafting in more workers to help manage the queues and provide passenger welfare, but that at peak times, all immigration desks should be manned. The Home Office has admitted that the long waits are unacceptable and said Border Force was now rapidly reviewing its rosters and deploying more staff across the airport to improve waiting times. Catherine Stancheshen, BBC News.
An investigation has begun after a plane crashed at the Bournemouth Air Festival, leaving 2 people injured. Images shared on social media show the small wing-walker aircraft partially submerged in Poole Harbour after plunging into the sea. Police say the 2 people rescued from the water suffered minor injuries.
More than 8,000 chain stores disappeared from high streets, shopping centres and retail parks across Britain in the first 6 months of this year.
New research suggests city centres have suffered the most, as footfall has yet to recover to pre-pandemic levels. Our business correspondent Emma Simpson reports.
It's the most famous shopping street in London, but now one of the hardest hit. Oxford Street littered with boarded up shops. City centres have suffered the most this year as chain stores continue to close.
There is quite a lot closed down, we've noticed. That's what we've noticed walking all along.
It's not as crowded as it used to be. It's quite unexpected coming to central London and actually seeing how affected they are from the pandemic.
But it's the same in Brighton, loads of shops have gone.
New figures show the scale of upheaval. In the first half of this year, 3,488 chain stores opened. These include everything from gyms and cafes to banks and bars. But more than 8,700 of them closed, meaning a net loss of more than 5,200 outlets.
These figures are stark, but they're not quite as bad as this time last year. Out of all the locations across Great Britain, it's retail parks and out-of-town shopping that have fared best.
So is this a permanent shift?
Over the next few months, city centres will start to liven up again as people start to go back to work, as schools go back and people spend more time in cities. However, I don't think you're going to get the same level of footfall in city centres as before. And retail parks, they're just more convenient for many of us.
This bakery chain definitely prefers the high street. It's just opening its latest store here in the London suburb of Kew, one of 4 new branches.
I definitely think that people are eating better food more often and more often at home. Opening the extra stores, and being able to expand in a time where rents are low and there is opportunity for us to rethink even what a bakery is.
Tempting people back in is the big challenge now for so many of our towns and city centres, which are still struggling to fully recover from the pandemic. Emma Simpson, BBC News, Central London.
See the headlines as they happen and watch BBC News live in the app and get the full story with bbc.co.uk/news. Follow the story for all the latest with BBC News.